Prime Minister Narendra Modi participates in non-aligned summit on tackling COVID-19 meeting via video conferencing, calls on NAM countries to remain inclusive in their efforts against the epidemic, hails India's democratic model, says democracy, discipline, decisiveness have come together to create a genuine people's movement. PM Modi says even as the world fights COVID-19 virus, some people are busy spreading other deadly viruses such as terrorism, fake news and doctored videos to divide communities and countries. Three CRPF Jawans martyred in Handwara, Jammu and Kashmir. Incident in Ghaziabad. CDS Bipin Rawat tells Doordarshan News that Pakistan will be given a befitting reply. Government to bring Indians stranded abroad back home in a phased manner from May 7th. Return to be on board airplanes and naval ships currently abroad. Indians' embassies and high commissions to prepare the list. Railways are not charging any fare for Shramik trains from workers who are seeking to return to their homes during the lockdown. 85% of charges being borne by railways. State governments expected to pay remaining 15%. No open sale of tickets as state governments decide who can travel. Active cases of COVID-19 in India stands at 29,685, while 11,761 have been recovered and discharged and 1,389 casualties recorded so far. Government engages civil society, NGOs, industry and international organizations in the fight against COVID-19. And coronavirus cases increase rapidly worldwide. So far, over 35 lakh people have been infected with corona. More than 2,51,000 people have died. More than 11,78,000 people infected with COVID-19 in America, with more than 69,000 fatalities in the US alone. Namaskar, I'm Abhishek. You are with latest on DD News and DD India. Let's start with our top story. As the world is fighting against the COVID-19 pandemic, various organizations are joining hands to carve out solutions to come out of the global health crisis. Prime Minister Narendra Modi participated in non-aligned summit on tackling COVID-19 meeting via video conferencing. PM called on NAM countries to remain inclusive in their efforts against the epidemic and hailed India as a leader as humanity faces its most severe crisis in many decades.
Call upon the international community and the World Health Organization focus on building health capacity in developing countries. We should ensure equitable, affordable and timely access to health products and technology for all. We should develop a platform for all named countries to pool our experience, best practices, crisis management protocols, research and resources. Excellencies, in the founding spirit of movement, let us aim today to come together, not grow apart. Each of us can be saved from the pandemic only if we all are. Let us work as partners towards an inclusive and cooperative global response.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi said even as the world fights COVID virus, some people are busy spreading other deadly viruses such as terrorism, fake news and doctored videos to divide communities and countries.
Some people are busy spreading other deadly viruses such as terrorism, such as fake news and doctored videos to divide communities and countries. But today, I want to focus only on the positives.
And also India talked about its democratic model on COVID containment at NAM meeting. PM said India has shown how democracy and discipline can come together to create genuine people's movement.
During this crisis, we have shown how democracy, discipline and decisiveness can come together to create a genuine people's movement.
Now here's a quick look at the top 10 takeaways of PM Modi's address in the NAM meet. We'll show you through graphics the 10 main points of his address. There you go. PM slammed Pakistan without naming it at the non-aligned movement meet. He said even as we fight COVID virus, some people are busy spreading other deadly viruses such as terrorism, fake news and doctored videos to divide communities and countries. So India has promoted coordination in immediate neighborhood on COVID. So NAM can help promote global solidarity and it has been world's moral voice. So NAM should call on international community and WHO to build health capacity in developing countries. And he also said that let us aim to come together, not grow apart. He said we have sent medical supplies to over 123 countries, including 59 NAM members. An Indian PM began with paying condolences to all those who lost loved ones due to COVID, says humanity faces its most serious crisis in decades. He said we need a new template of globalization based on fairness, equality and humanity. And he mentioned that we need to promote human welfare and not focus on economic growth alone. And many countries organize military drills, but India has taken the initiative to organize disaster management drills. So Prime Minister Narendra Modi also highlighted India's efforts in combating COVID-19 pandemic.
India's civilization sees the whole world is as one family. As we care for our own citizens, we are also extending help to other countries. To counter COVID-19, we have promoted coordination in our immediate neighborhood and we are organizing online training to share India's medical expertise with many others. India is regarded as a pharmacy of the world, especially for affordable medicines. Despite our own needs, we have ensured medical supplies to over 123 partner countries, including 59 members of NAM.
Absolutely highlighting there India's efforts in tackling COVID-19. So as we have entered the third phase of the lockdown, government is now working towards facilitating the return of Indian nationals stranded abroad. The operation will be conducted on compelling grounds in a phased manner and the operation will begin from May 7th. So the travel would be arranged by aircraft and naval ships. A standard operating procedure has already been prepared. The Indian embassies and high commissions are preparing a list of distressed Indian citizens and this facility would be made available on payment basis. Non-scheduled commercial flights would be arranged for the air travel. The passengers will be screened before they board the flight and only asymptomatic passengers will be allowed to travel. and upon reaching, everyone will have to register on the Arogya Setu mobile application. They will be screened once again, and mind you, after the screening, the passengers will be quarantined for 14 days. They will be kept either in a hospital or in an institutional quarantine, and another round of tests would be done after 14 days, depending upon what further action would be taken according to health protocols. The Ministries of External Affairs and Civil Aviation would share detailed information about it through its websites. State governments have been advised to make arrangements including testing, quarantine and further movements of the returning Indians in their respective states. So moving on, West Bengal has the highest COVID-19 mortality rate in the country at 12.8%. Inter-Ministerial Central Team Leader Apurva Chandra wrote in his final observations to State Chief Secretary Rajiv Sinha. Before leaving for Delhi on Monday, Apurva Chandra said in the letter that this extremely high mortality rate is a clear indication of low testing, weak surveillance and tracking. He further added that a discrepancy has been brought to the fore in the number of COVID-19 cases reported by the state in its medical bulletins and its communication with the union government. The team led by Chandra returned to the national capital after having completed 2 weeks of stay in Kolkata. Moving ahead now, railways are not charging any fare from workers who are seeking to return to their homes during the lockdown. 85% of charges being borne by railways. State governments are expected to pay remaining 15%. Shramik trains are being operated on the request of state governments, and no open sale of tickets as state governments to decide who can travel.
These are those labourers who have been stranded in different states after lockdown came into force. Now that they are finally getting chance to go home, the happiness writ large on their faces. On the request of states, the centre and railways have made these arrangements. But politics has started on the return of stranded labourers. Reports of stranded labourers being charged for their fare of return journey home from different states has led to political slugfest, and the centre has clarified that no charges are being levied from labourers.
Government of India हो या रेलवेज हो, किसी भी कोशिश में हमने कभी भी कोई भी वर्कर से चार्ज करने की बात नहीं की है. हमने 85% जो पूरी ट्रांसपोर्टेशन का कॉस्ट बियर किया जाता है, वह 85% जो है वो रेलवेज बियर करती हैं, 15% स्टेट को बियर करना है.
Railways are running Shramik special trains for movement of stranded persons on the request from concerned state governments. Railways and state governments have appointed nodal officers for coordination and smooth operation. Passengers have to mandatorily wear face cover, follow social distancing norms and other precautions. Congress party's offer to pay for the tickets of migrant workers becomes meaningless with the railways and state governments sharing the cost of travel of migrant workers. With political slugfest on this issue at its peak, BJP has attacked the Congress on this issue and alleged that Congress was playing politics over such a sensitive issue. Meanwhile, chief ministers of several states have lauded the initiative of the centre and said that in this time of crisis, the centre has taken this sensitive step. Several states like Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Bihar and Madhya Pradesh have talked of bearing the entire cost, while there are some states who have not yet taken any decision in this regard. Bihar Chief Minister Nitish Kumar said that the state government will bear the expenses of the workers returning home. Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh, Shivraj Singh Chauhan, also talked of bearing the entire cost of labourers' journey back home. In its directives, Kerala government has said that those who can afford it should be charged for the travel. Railways, in the running of these special trains, has ensured to follow the coronavirus lockdown rules and has put one berth in every coach empty, following physical distancing rules. Trains are fully locked till the time migrant labourers reach their destination, and on return, the entire train comes empty. According to railway sources, migrant workers are given free food and bottled drinking water. Meanwhile, those migrant workers are reaching their destination are first screened by the local administration and then sent to the quarantine center. Bureau Report, DD News.
So it's clear that railways are not charging anything from the labourers. Moving on, Delhi government has decided to increase the price of all types of liquors by 70%. The government will collect the increased price as special corona fee. The increased prices will be applicable from today itself. And earlier, Delhi Excise Commissioner wrote a letter to Delhi Police Commissioner asking to open liquor stores while strictly adhering to social distancing norms. The Union Public Service Commission has deferred the Civil Services preliminary examination scheduled to be held on 31st May. The decision was taken during a meeting held by the UPSC to review the situation after the second phase of the COVID-19 induced nationwide lockdown. Taking note of the extension of restrictions, UPSC decided that it will not be possible to resume examinations and interviews at present. And this was stated by the UPSC in a communique. The Civil Services Preliminary Examination 2020 scheduled to be held on May 31st, therefore, stands deferred, it said. So as and when the dates are decided for the deferred test and examinations, it will be ensured that candidates are given a notice of at least 30 days. Next story now, 3 CRPF personnel were martyred and 2 others injured when terrorists opened fire on them at a checkpoint in Kupwara a day after 5 security personnel lost their lives during an encounter in the district. A teenaged civilian reportedly of unsound mental condition was also killed in the exchange of fire between the security forces and the ultras. The terrorists opened fire on a Naka party of the Central Reserve Police Force at Wangam Qaziabad in Kralgun area of the district. A brief shootout ensued as the CRPF personnel opened retaliatory firing. The area has been cornered off and search operation is launched in the area to nab the terrorist. Police has registered a case and officers are investigating the circumstances of the terror crime. Earlier, 5 army personnel, including 2 officers and a Jammu and Kashmir policeman, were martyred during an encounter with militants on Saturday in Handwara area. In an exclusive interview to DD News, Chief of Defence Staff General Bipin Rawat said that India was and is prepared to fight any challenges. Speaking of the Handwara attack, he said that they were sure that infiltration activities will take place as soon as the snow starts melting. But India is ready and is conducting investigation to foil any such attempts. He also thanked the people of Kashmir for their support and faith in the army.
हमें तो कभी भी ये उम्मीद नहीं थी कि कोरोना के दौरान पाकिस्तान इन्फिल्ट्रेशन को रोक देगा या कश्मीर में माहौल बिगाड़ने की कोशिश नहीं करेगा। तो इसके लिए हमारी सेना पूर्ण रूप से तैयार थी। हमें पूरा यकीन था कि इन्फिल्ट्रेशन की कार्रवाई जैसे ही बर्फ़ पिघलना शुरू होगी, इन्फिल्ट्रेशन होगी। इसके लिए हम तैयार थे और उसी के तहत लगातार कार्रवाई चलती जा रही है। जनवरी से और अप्रैल के महीने में किस तरह की सफलता मिली है सिक्योरिटी फोर्सेस को जम्मू कश्मीर में, और हमें अगर इस वक्त सफलता मिल रही है तो वो मिल रही है क्योंकि जम्मू कश्मीर की जो आवाम है वो हमारे साथ है, वो हमारा सहयोग कर रही है।
Also, he highlighted the importance of motivation to any frontline soldiers. It is a role that the armed forces are adept and they collectively thought it appropriate to share that with the frontline COVID warriors.
The corona warriors who are in the front line need to remain motivated. They must have sufficient fervor in them to go on. And for that we felt that if we as the armed forces can do something to motivate them, to keep them rejuvenated, what is it that we can do? And the little that we could do is give them the support. We do know how to motivate people because we constantly motivate our soldiers.
General Rawat also said that the armed forces are assisting the health ministry in any way necessary. The army medical infrastructure has been adapted to assist civilian hospitals in different parts of the country.
We are working with the other government agencies, particularly in sync with the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, because they are the ones who are actually leading the fight. And they keep giving us guidelines, they keep giving us some kind of an assessment as to what is likely to happen in the future. And keeping that in mind, we are preparing ourselves. We have prepared a number of isolation and quarantine facilities. We have created special hospitals for treating COVID patients. in the northern region, southern, eastern, western, and central India. We are constantly upgrading our facilities, and let me assure you that even at the cost of inconveniencing our own soldiers, sailors, and airmen, we will make sure that we provide adequate support to our people, to our citizens.
International update on COVID-19 now. The global death toll due to the virus crossed 2.5 lakh mark with a total of 35,78,301 cases reported globally. Meanwhile, countries are gradually coming back to activity after a considerable spell of dormancy, while ensuring that proper measures are in place to avoid further spread of the virus. In USA, senators returned to Washington for the first time in nearly 6 weeks amid concerns that their legislative sessions could put lawmakers and staff at risk of contracting the new coronavirus. With the resumption of the Senate, party leaders raised partisan differences over the next step in how to combat the pandemic. Democrats and Republicans are at odds over the contents of any new coronavirus legislation. While Democrats want up to $1 trillion to help state and local governments, the Republicans, on the other hand, are demanding liability protections for businesses as a condition for moving forward on any bill. With Washington still under a stay-at-home order, lawmakers were advised by the congressional physician to wear masks, stay 6 feet apart, and limit the number of staff on Capitol Hill. Meanwhile, in New York, the City Metropolitan Transportation Authority workers disinfected trains during the coronavirus pandemic as the city struggles to keep the virus at bay. New York City subway is taking the unprecedented step of halting overnight service in order to clean train cars, a likely prelude to bigger changes as the largest U.S. mass transit system works to rebound from a pandemic that has slashed ridership. The city has been the nation's epicenter in the pandemic. The U.S. coronavirus tally now stands at 11,78,906 coronavirus cases and 68,689 deaths, with New York alone registering 19,057 deaths. As U.S. moves towards easing of lockdown, Florida began a gradual reopening of its economy. In the first phase, retail merchants and restaurants will open with indoor patronage limited to 25% of capacity. Eateries were also allowed to open outdoor seating with social distancing. Restaurants in all Florida counties were allowed to open, while schools, movie theaters, bars and fitness clubs remained shut. In addition, hospitals resumed elective surgeries. The surgeries were brought to a halt in many hospitals across the United States as resources were redirected towards patients suffering from the coronavirus. Now, in Spain, lockdown restrictions started easing out in a phased manner. Businesses with premises under 400 square meters, like hairdressers and flower shops, reopened on Monday in the country. Spain began a 4-phase plan on Monday to reopen the country by the end of June. However, some stores must remain closed until coronavirus emergency gets better. So, under the new regulations, hairdressers and barbers must operate by appointment only, and more than one client in a shop per employee are not allowed. Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez said on Saturday that 6 million masks were due to be distributed in Spain and soon will be available to public. Government has now made mandatory to wear masks in public transports. Meanwhile, Spain registered new 164 deaths in the past 24 hours, taking the toll to 25,428 and positive cases 2,18,011. France now. French Finance Minister Bruno Le Maire on Monday said that France is expecting to face risk of companies going bankrupt and job cuts as the country readies to ease its coronavirus lockdown measures next week. Speaking at an online event, Le Maire said an uncertain resuming of operations could hamper companies' return to normal as France is slated to put in place its deconfinement plan starting May 11th. Le Maire singled out restaurants, the tourism and cultural industry and other businesses that will remain closed after May 11th, saying that they should be the priority beneficiaries of the nation's generous partial unemployment scheme. The France coronavirus tally now stands at 1,69,583 coronavirus cases and 25,204 deaths. UAE update now. UAE has recorded an additional 567 cases of COVID-19 in the country, bringing the total number of cases in the country to 14,730. Official spokesperson of the UAE government said that further 18,698 tests were conducted across the country. She also informed that 203 more patients had recovered from COVID-19 after receiving the necessary medical care, raising the total number of recoveries to 2,966. Officials also announced 11 new deaths of people from different nationalities, bringing the number of COVID-19 related deaths to 137. Meanwhile, Saudi Arabia reported 1,645 new coronavirus cases and 7 new deaths, raising the total number of cases in the kingdom to 28,656 and the virus-related death toll to 191. Also, the Indian mission in UAE is gearing up to facilitate one of the biggest evacuation operation of the standard citizens amidst the global pandemic, as the first flight home is likely to take off on 7th of May. The evacuation will take place in a phased manner. And speaking to DD News, Ambassador Pawan Kapoor said that first list of the distressed citizens is being made. The list is being made from those who have already registered on the mission's website. The focus would be on those who are distressed. He said that the list will be given to Air India, which then will issue tickets on payment basis. Non-scheduled commercial flights are being arranged for the purpose. And more than 1.95 lakh Indians have registered on the e-portal of the Indian mission in UAE, and more than 57% of these are from the state of Kerala, followed by the state of Tamil Nadu. The first two flights are likely to take off for Kerala on 7th of May with around 360 passengers on board. And sharing the initial details, Ambassador Kapoor said that one flight is expected to take off from Abu Dhabi to Kochi and the other from Dubai to Kozhikode. And the Government of India on Monday announced that it will facilitate the return of Indian nationals stranded abroad in compelling circumstances in a phased manner starting May 7th. Bangladesh now with 688 new coronavirus positive cases reported over the last 24 hours. The number of COVID-19 infections in Bangladesh has gone up to 10,143. According to the Directorate General of Health Services, Bangladesh, this is the largest single-day increase in coronavirus infections in Bangladesh since the first case was detected on March 8th in the country. 5 more people died in the last 24 hours since Sunday, taking the death toll in the country due to coronavirus to 182. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina on Monday announced that the government will provide cash assistance before Eid to people who have lost their jobs. Announcing relief measures, Sheikh Hasina said that government will issue 50 lakh additional ration cards for the poor people so that they can purchase rice at Taka 10 per kg. Government has already provided 50 lakh ration cards for the poorer people earlier. Pointing to the possibility of famine in the world due to the coronavirus pandemic, Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina instructed the Agricultural Minister to ensure that all the land is cultivated to meet the demand of food in Bangladesh and other countries. However, she assured people that the country has adequate stock of food grains for its requirement. And continuing with the ongoing general holiday, the government of Bangladesh on Monday extended it further till May 16th. Well, that's all we have on this news bulletin. Stay tuned for more news and updates. Namaskar.